Today is the day of Christmas Eve. I am thrilled to see so many people here today in the Isvara Center and on our live stream webinar. It is so beautiful. Now, let's take a look at what the teaching has to say about Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve is a night of great challenge. It is a night in which we make strong decisions. We need to take a look at our path, where we are right now. And sometimes we're going to find that we must make a 180-degree turn, that we must reverse our gear and start thinking about our future. Not our future here on earth, but all the eternities through which we are going to live. So tonight, the eve of Christmas, can for some of us be a night of contemplation, of meditation, of facing ourselves, cornering ourselves, and asking, what did I do all year? Well, we know that, of course, not everybody is going to be doing this. But if you really want to take advantage of the energies of Christmas Eve, this is a spiritual discipline that we can budget into our time. This discipline is especially intended for people who are striving toward a new level of consciousness and striving toward the next initiation of light. So, if you want to take advantage of one of the holiest times of the year, this is what you can do tonight. And ask yourself, what did I do all this year? What did I really do? Is this the life I am going to continue to live? Or do I want to face myself and change my life? So Christmas Eve is a night that we can change ourselves. Of course, it's symbolic. According to astronomical information, Christmas Eve, we find now that the light is beginning to increase, and the day is becoming a little longer, and night becomes a little shorter. It is a symbol that the night in which we are living, physically, emotionally, mentally, must decrease and change in order to release more light from our soul. So if you take it seriously, Christmas Eve gives a tremendous amount of energy that we can use to change ourselves. It is a moment where Christ, the energy of Christ and the hierarchy spreads all over the world. It is a moment of opportunity in which we can accept this energy and cause changes within ourselves. So what kind of life did you live this year? Were you manipulated by people? By your own instincts and glamours and illusions? By your own stupidities and ego and vanities? Or did you live a life of the soul? There are so many people today who manipulate others even when they are unaware of their actions. To manipulate others is to, and listen to this carefully, to manipulate others is to interfere with their life rhythms, with their striving, their personal striving, and even sometimes their future. So even in the little things, try very hard not to manipulate others. To manipulate others in the teaching means that we are imposing our beliefs, our opinions, our life, our philosophy, our this and that upon others. We don't want to impose our life upon another person. If instead you really do enjoy manipulating and imposing yourself on others, you're going to be causing some very difficult problems for yourself. But this is a topic for another day. You can also be manipulated by your own instincts, glamours, and illusions, your own stupidities, egos, and vanity. Are we rather going to be a cause in the life of humanity and bring new changes to the life, new changes to ourselves, our family, our group? Or are we going to play and waste the time of our soul for the next 20 or 50 years and then be placed in a tomb like a mummy? Tonight is going to be the night that we can awaken to a greater part of ourselves, the lighted part of ourselves, and say, this is the time that I'm going to introduce serious changes in my life. If you can do this, if we can do this, then we are in tune with the universal life, in tune with the hierarchy of the planet. As I was listening to Richard read this morning, I was envisioning Helena Rourke and Nicholas Rourke and Helena Blavatsky and our teacher Torquem Sardarian, all experiencing year after year after year Christmas Eve. I tried to put myself in their aura. I had thought, this is how to be inspired no matter where we are in our state of existence today, no matter how great we think we are or how small we think we are. If we can use our creative imagination, imagine that we are in their aura, that we are truly touched by the spirit of their life. How can we help wanting to stay the same? We cannot want to stay the same. I recently received a new book. It's kind of antagonistic to the life of the Rourkes and the Masters, but I love books like this because that's how you really get to get in behind the scenes of how people have recognized and are threatened by great beings of light. And I'm learning so much about the life of the Rourkes. And I thought, after he published a 700-page book on the life of the Rourkes, that we pretty much knew a lot more than most people. But this book is bringing out more information. Now, it's not a book for everybody because most people just want to, read the good things. Well, I'm reading the good things. And this is one of the things that I learned and I'll just share with you on our YouTube and our live webinar this morning that Master Moria, we all know the phrase and term Master Moria and who he is. Well, Master Moria also had another name called Alaming. Well, I learned through a couple of different venues actually that Alaming also is Alaming Isvara. And you can imagine my joy because we named our center Isvara. Isvara means King of the Mountain. It means the Lord. It means the Master. Now, for those of us that are students of the wisdom teaching, that believe in the plan of hierarchy for humanity, that have studied the lives and, you know, feel like we want to support their vision, continuing their vision, to recognize and to see something, like for myself, you can imagine I was ecstatic. Why? Because even though I was inspired to call our new center Isvara, I didn't know the legend behind it. And that's been the case so oftentimes with other inspirations for our group. So when you first receive the inspiration, and then you see it in writing, which is the affirmation, the confirmation, it tells me we are right where we are supposed to be, right with the heart of the great ones, that we're still being influenced by the spirit, the aura, the radiance of these great ones, and that we're being watched over. So when you realize that you are being watched over, how can we not take advantage of tonight and say, how can I change myself? How do I need to change myself? How did I live this year, this past year, 2017? And do I want to stay the same? So to repeat myself, tonight is the night that we can awaken to a greater part of ourselves. This, you know, I could go on and on. It's about this, to awaken to a greater part of ourselves. This is what it does. It puts us in a completely different vibration. That vibration is the higher resonance of your chalice, your lotus. Now, we can take a step beyond that and recognize if we are in contact with, if we are being inspired by the light and love and power of our own chalice, this chalice is in contact with greater chalices, the chalice of the planetary Lord, the chalice of Shambhala, the chalice of hierarchy, the chalices of the masters. All we have to do is be in contact with our chalice, and that puts us in contact with greater light, greater love, greater power of these magnificent masters. And therein we understand what it means to awaken to a greater part of ourselves, the lighted part of ourselves. So the day before Christmas, that's today, and the eve of Christmas have three significant disciplines. Three significant disciplines. Three activities that we can exercise as an unfolding human soul. In exercising these three disciplines, We are giving ourselves a gift that cannot be bought at Macy's, cannot be bought at Saks Fifth Avenue, or any other, even Walmart, any other department store in the world. It is a gift, a free gift from the teaching. It is free of cost. So the first discipline is renunciation. This is so beautiful. You can raise your hands and say, I renounce. I renounce. What am I going to renounce? Well, now it gets pretty personal, and you're not going to sit down in a group and say, this is what I renounce. You know, this is very personal. You can say, I renounce my ugliness. I renounce my insanities. I renounce my foul and imposing conversations, my gossip, hatred, and lying, and the other things in yourself that you really want to eradicate. You are going to renounce these things about yourself that you don't like. You can renounce your darkness. You can say, I renounce my darkness. And when you say this, really try to mean it. And if you do, you're going to find a new kind of energy circulating in your aura because you rejected all of those elements that were preventing the circulation of psychic energy. That psychic energy within our system. That psychic energy we can also call as the Spirit of Christ. We're going to renounce our vanities. Renounce what you think you are. And if you can do this tonight, you will suddenly face what exactly you are and not what you think you are. This is renouncement. Emotionally, we can renounce hatred and fear and anger and jealousy and greed. You can renounce physical hang-ups like overeating, drinking, doing drugs, things that make your personality life addictive and stuck on the earth plane, things that dim your light and slow down your spiritual progress. Tonight's the night to do this. The second discipline we can meditate and contemplate on is purification. What is purification? It is so interesting. It is the purification of our motives. Most of our motives, or even the motives of others, always have components in that motive for themselves. Components in that motive for themselves, what they can get for themselves. Motives which are rooted in their own interests and ego. These motives, types of motives, are for common people, average people, people who live only for themselves. It is important that we are not caught in this trap, in living a life full of wrong motives for our ego, for our vanity, for our own interests. So the most important thing for tonight, for Christmas Eve, is to make contact with the Christ. This is the third discipline. So renunciation is the first, and so important. Purification is the second discipline, and the third discipline is to try to make contact with the Christ. Did you really make a contact with Him? Or did you, in fact, read about someone who had such a beautiful contact, and then you told others, yeah, I made a contact with the Christ because I read a book. Well, maybe that's not so bad, for it means that you really do want to have contact. But you're going to know that you made contact how? If you change yourself. Because that means you're contacting the Christ within you. Unless you have a contact, you are going to remain the same. So we kind of had a leg up, this morning now, thinking about those that we adore, those that we are so devoted to their vision, devoted to their plan, who may not even be on the planet. In fact, none of them are on the planet right now, at least not in the form that we know them. The Rourkes and their sons, their beautiful sons, and Blavatsky. Blavatsky died at such an early age. Holy cow. Yeah, and look at what she accomplished, and she's still so controversial. And dear Torgum, whom we mostly all knew and just were mesmerized by his light. Now imagine contacting that Christ within you. Imagine contacting Christ, the head of hierarchy. Imagine putting yourself in the aura of these great chalices tonight and think that I'm going to be the same tomorrow that I was today. You see, it's not possible to be the same. Any more than it was possible when you first picked up a book from the teaching. Like the first book I ever picked up in the teaching was Hierarchy. It's a book called Hierarchy. It changed my life. We've all had these experiences. And that was just a book with inspired words, of course. When you have that contact with Christ, you will see things happening to you in 1 second, like lightning. Your motives will be purified. No longer can you be in darkness. You are enlightened. This is the direct contact with Him. What will you realize that is different in your life? Well, you're going to realize, first of all, that you have a tremendous amount of inspiration. And this inspiration you can use for anything, creatively. If you're an artist, your artwork is going to now be impressed with greater light, greater love, greater creativity. Your writing, your books, your lectures, your music, your service, your sacrifice, because now that energy is coming to you to give to others. Ideas and visions and revelations will open continuously because you are now in contact with an ocean. You're going to be so humble. Remember that. You're going to be, it is humbling, because you realize this isn't me yesterday. This isn't even me. Where's this coming from? This is why we're told that one disciple is equal to 1,000 people. Because of their inspiration, that flow of psychic energy that is coming through them. And they do unimaginable things, creative things for the world. Whereas we're just struggling from day to day, to get through the day. But why live a life of struggle like that? Let's align ourselves to the Christ. Ideas, I'm repeating myself here, ideas and visions and revelations will open continuously because now we are in contact with an ocean and we're going to be so humble. It is very beautiful. So when are you going to make that contact? Today, tonight, tomorrow? Try it and come in contact with him. You can be a man or a woman. It does not make any difference. Next, after you contact the Christ, you will become charged with radioactive energy and magnetism. You will attract everything that is necessary for what? For your sacrificial service. Remember this. Everything that is necessary for your sacrificial service, you're going to attract it. Next, the next thing that's going to happen is that you're going to start intuitively seeing the most essential thing to say, to buy, to relate, the most essential. Most people even have no idea what that is like. But if you're intuitive, you live in a whole different world. People don't understand it because they're so earthbound. They won't hear. How can I place this? They won't, I know this may sound strange, but they won't hear your energy. They won't hear your colors. They won't hear your presence because they're so earthbound. For those of us that have had such a contact, you hear energy, you hear color and sound. You hear people's thoughts. You hear their presence intuitively, because now your consciousness is functioning in the spiritual triad with all these great, great lighted beings that are charging you with inspiration. That inspiration makes you intuitive. Light creates discernment and discrimination. You see things as they are. You see the causal side of it, the purpose side of it, the future side of it. And contact will bring this to you. It is not always so easy to see these things, but it is going to happen. And you will learn how to deal with it. The reason it's not easy is because you can see the future and recognize what the future is going to bring to others as a result of their decisions and their lifestyle and so forth. And you can't do anything except for pray. To pray for them. You can create a thought form that they may or may not be responsive to. So it's not always so easy, but because your consciousness is in the future, now stay with me on this, at some point, that individual that you're recognizing what their future is going to be, the thought form that you are creating for them now, they're going to walk into it, maybe at another Christmas Eve, and it's going to awaken them. Now, this may surprise you, but we hear a lot of people saying today, humanity is awakening. How does this happen? I've been asking this forever. How is humanity going to awake? This is how, because the great ones have created this magnificent thought form of progress, of advancement, of spirituality. And all humanity has to do is be influenced by that great thought form, and they're going to awaken. You're going to become radioactive. To become radioactive means that your light, your energy, will dispel your glamours and illusions and vanity and ego. You don't need these things anymore. You absolutely do not need an ego. You do not need vanity. Not when you are placing yourself within the resonance of these great lighted and illumined being. You don't need ego and vanity. When you talk with people, they're going to feel uncomfortable being around you. In their discomfort, they're going to say, that person is creating a lot of trouble with me, for me. They're causing me emotional and mental upheavals. But see, this is good. And this is called awakening. Those that are experiencing the upheavals. That upheaval will continue until the light within you increases to such a degree that you destroy the darkness within you. That's what contact with the Christ is. When you come in contact with this great light, your whole life changes. Your whole environment changes. And you become a path for other people. Where are you going to lead them? A disciple went to a master and said, I did great service for the world. And the master replied. His reply was very interesting, something to pay attention to. The master said, I wanted to know where you were leading people. I intuitively watched you and watched what you were doing, where you were leading people. And then he told the disciple, yes, you really are an advanced disciple. You are really an initiate, a beautiful person, because with whomever you came in contact, you led them through the 5 gates of beauty, goodness, righteousness, joy, and freedom. You led them into beauty. Your contact led them into beauty, not ugliness. You led them into goodness, not evil. You charged them with goodness, good thinking, good feeling, good action, good relationships. You charged people, you awakened people. So the master is talking to the initiate. A Sufi teacher one day came with some extra change in his pocket. He counted the money and he found he had been given too much money. 1 cent more than what he should have received from his customer. My gosh, he said, 1 cent, the customer paid me too much. So his student said, well, what are you going to do? It's just a penny. I'm going to take it back. Now, the customer lived 18 miles away. He took it back riding on a donkey. He rode all night, gave the penny back, and returned home, saying, now I can sleep. So try to come in contact with Christ. Tonight, decide to do it. Decide to take the 3 steps of renunciation and purification in contact with Christ. Decide, I am going to renounce. Maybe you are smoking and you've wanted to give them up. Okay, tonight is the night to do it. You don't need, what is that? I don't know what it's called. Anyway, all those things out there, you know, that patches and something derm. Anyway, you don't need that stuff. You save all your money But you have to renounce it. Renounce smoking or drinking or whatever. Tonight is the night to do it. Just decide on one thing. Can you do it? If you want to challenge yourself a little more and go a little higher, renounce your vanities or renounce a glamour. A glamour is a form of one of your desires that possesses you. Have a contact. A couple of years ago, actually it was in 2015, many of us were watching the activities of the Pope, Pope Francis. He had left from Rome and was visiting Havana for a few days. While he was there, he conducted many masses and vespers. He met with many people from morning to night. But he didn't go back to Rome then. He flew on over to the United States. And while he was in the United States, he traveled from Washington, D.C. to New York to Philadelphia. I'm sure you remember this. He crossed several time zones. And immediately, when he got off the plane, he was working with people. His activities were so many, it was dizzying. He is 81 years old. He just celebrated his birthday on the 17th. Pope Francis became the first pope to address a joint session of the United States Congress. How did you live your year? He gave an address to the United Nations General Assembly. At the age of 81, while we watched him over the many days of his travels, he seemed ageless. Here is this man of God, blessing people, meeting with old and young people alike, holding many ceremonies for masses of people, day in and day out. One day he was limping, and we learned that he was experiencing serious sciatica problems. But it didn't stop him. He continued on. How can these things happen with an 81-year-old man? Contact with the Christ. It is very real. This is psychic energy. I just remembered the name, Nicoderm. I'm sorry. Now it's like... So do not think that you are not worthy. You can come in contact with him because he is always watching the sparks that are shining in the darkness. When he sees a spark shining in the darkness, he radiates a beam of light and comes in contact with you, that spark. Perhaps your spark. He said, I never left you, and I will never leave you until the end of time. Hey, this is so beautiful. So tonight, after all your fun, go to your room and come in contact with him. So this is a day of change. Let's see if any one of you will do this. Hey, don't be discouraged. Say, Lord, I want to be charged by you so that I can go out into the world and bring some beauty wherever I am. Merry Christmas.